News? Yeah. Haraya Nama Krishna Jadhavaya Namaha. Haraya Nama Krishna Jadhavaya Namaha. Jadhavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Jadhavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Wow. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gose Kore Charan Badan. Jahoite Bignanash Abhishtapuran. Echai Gose Jai Mohitaradas. Tasabara Padarinu Mor Panchagras. Tadire Charane Savi. Tadire Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janami Janami Hoye Abhilash. Echai Gosai Jabi Braja Kolabhash. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Kurila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Maje Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koro Ash. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Kori Ash. Nam Sankirtan Koi Narottama Das. Nam Sankirtan Koi Narottama Das. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotter Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotter Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the sum of devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the sum of devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the sum of devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyana Timurandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupata Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapara Kamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopi Shakopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakopatu Vyashtra Kripasanu Bhivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vikasa Swamini Namane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pasharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchatya Deshatarane Bhutir Mahadviri Mapura Vibor Niramaya Sheti Yad Mushipurishaha Bhunkti Gunan Shurasha Shurashatmaka Surang Shishta Bhagavan Vashamsime. So today is the disappearance day of two associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so I'll speak on that. It's the disappearance day of Jagadish Pandit and then Jiva Goswami. So first, I'll speak some on Jagadish Pandit. He's brief. He's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita a little bit. I just remember one specific pastime. First, so within the Adi Leela, this is probably the most extensive verse and purport. Jagadish Pandit, the 15th branch of Lord Nityananda's followers, was the deliverer of the entire world. Devotional love of Krishna showered from him like torrents of rain. And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he belonged to the village of Yashoda Gram in the district of Nadia, near the Chadaka railway station. His father, the son of Patanarayana, was named Kamalaksha. Both his father and mother were great devotees of Lord Vishnu. And after their death, Jagadish, with his wife Dukini and brother Mahesha, left his birthplace and came to Sri Mayapur to live in the company of Jagannath Mishra and other Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya asked Jagadish to go to Jagannath Puri to preach the Harinam Sankirtan movement. After returning from Jagannath Puri on the order of Lord Jagannath, he established deities of Jagannath in the village of Yashoda Gram. It is said that when Jagadish Pandit brought the deity of Jagannath to Yashodagram, he tied the heavy deity to a stick and thus brought him to the village. The priests of the temple still show the stick used by Jagadish Pandit to carry the Jagannath deity. So this is a few pastimes involving Jagadish Pandit. So he's considered to be a follower, or a shaka, a branch of the tree of Lord Nityananda. Simultaneously, uniquely, he's also considered to be a branch of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Chaka. So here we have the same thing in Adi Leela, just the chapter before this. The 31st branch was Jagadish Pandit, and the 32nd was Hiranya Mahashai, etc. like that. So he's simultaneously both. He's a branch of the Lord Chaitanya tree and branch of the Lord Nityananda tree. So he was, as we read from the purport, he was already there in Nadia when Lord Chaitanya was born. So he was there in Lord Chaitanya's childhood as Nimai. So there's one pastime that's narrated in Chaitanya Bhagavat. I'll just narrate it briefly. I think it's Adi Leela chapter 4 of Chaitanya Bhagavat. You can read if you so desire. In brief, when Nimai was a child, I guess before he was a Pandit, he would often cry. And the only thing that would satiate him is the chanting of the holy names. And so on one specific occasion, Nimai kept crying, and even the chanting of the holy names, it didn't pacify. And then Shachi Mata, she asked Nimai, what do you want? What will pacify you? And then Nimai replied that go to the house of Jagadish Pandit and bring me the offering he's making. So Jagannath Mishra, because they were friends, he went to his house, Jagadish Pandit's house, and then he requested, he explained the situation to him, and he requested an offering. And on that day, Jagadish Pandit happened to be, he was in the midst of making an offering of rice to Lord Vishnu, and it was an Ekadashi day, which you can offer grains on Ekadashi, at least to the deity. So Jagannath Mishra, he asked, is this right? Nimai's crying, he's demanding this, but it's an Ekadashi day. If he takes the offering, then it'll be sinful. So Jagadish Pandit could understand the identity of Nimai. He knew it to be Lord Vishnu or Krishna himself. So he happily gave his offering to Jagannath Mishra, and Nimai took that offering, and then he became satiated. So that's one pastime that's narrated more extensively in Chaitanya Bhagavat, but that's it in brief. He was later ordered to go to Puri by Lord Chaitanya. Before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he sent Jagadish Pandit in advance to Puri, where he did some preaching activities there. And then when he got to Puri, or later, rather, when Lord Chaitanya came, he then sent Jagadish Pandit back to Bengal, along with Lord Jagannath, as we read. This pastime I don't know so much about, so I just want to read from the purport there. Main thing I'll cover regarding him. So this is Jagadish Pandit in brief. He's only briefly mentioned throughout Chaitanya Bhagavan, Chaitanya Charitamrita, other than that one chapter regarding the rice offering. So today is also the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami. So, So I wanted to read from here. So, Shri Bhagavata Sandarbha Nam Granthi Vishtar Bhakti Siddhantera Tate Dikayachena Par. And Sri Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. Just a preface. So I'll get to more about Jiva Goswami in a little bit. Just initially, I guess, I'm sure we all know who he is to some extent or another. He's the son of Anupam. Anupam was the brother of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and he left his body early, but his son nevertheless survived, Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami, he was the nephew of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. He's known principally for his learning, and among his works, the Bhagavat Sandarbha, or Shat Sandarbha is also called. So he did many things. I'll get to his life in a little bit, or maybe I'll speak on this first. I'll speak on some general principles of his life. So Jiva Goswami, he saw Lord Chaitanya at a young age, actually, in Ramakeli when he was about 34 years old. Although it was only very brief, it left an impression in his mind for the rest of his life. And so as a young student, he mastered Sanskrit grammar, poetry, logic, etc. like this. He was very proficient in his studies. He exhibited great learning even from an early age. And specifically, he went to Navadvip after completing his Sanskrit studies to study logic there, because Navadvip at the time was the center of learning. There, Jiva Goswami, before it was Goswami, Jiva met Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu, he blessed Jiva Goswami, and then Jiva Goswami took shelter of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Then Lord Nityananda, he took Jiva Goswami on a parikrama of Navadvip, which began the tradition of circumambulating Navadvip Dham. Soon thereafter, Lord Nityananda, he ordered Jiva Goswami to go to Vrindavan to join his uncles who were already there, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and so Jiva Goswami so did. He stopped in Benares on the way, which was also a center of learning, and he studied the 6 darshans, or the 6 philosophies, Indian philosophies, like Sankhya, Nyaya, etc. like this. So we studied in Benares under a disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who was there. So, and then he proceeded to Vrindavan. And Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami, he lived with his uncles, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. He served them. He was their assistant. Principally, you could think of it like that. He helped them in their writing. He helped them establish temples. He himself established temples as well. He uncovered pastime places, etc. Those things that Lord Chaitanya ordered Sanatana Goswami to do in Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami also helped in this regard. He edited books for Rupa Goswami, and he also wrote commentaries on the literature of Rupa Goswami. He's also very famous for having produced 3 great preachers, the appearance and disappearance days of whom we also celebrate, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasa Acharya, and Shyamananda Prabhu. All very famous, all very empowered acharyas who he sent to, they studied under him, and then he later sent them to Bengal to preach. He did many other things. Famously, he established the Radha Damodar temple. A few of us have been there. Srila Prabhupada took shelter there before coming to the West. So the deities, Radha Damodar, those deities, were personally sculpted by Rupa Goswami on the order of Lord Krishna within a dream that he had. Hang on. Okay, I forgot the source of this, but there's a verse. I think this comes in the Gaura Ganesha Deepika or somewhere like this. I forget. Anyway, I have the verse itself. Svapanadeshe Shrupa Radha Damodare Svahasti Nirmana Karidila Shri Jivere. Being ordered by Shri Radha Damodar, Rupa Goswami crafted them in deity form and gave them to Jiva Goswami. So, Rupa Goswami is also involved, obviously, in the establishing of Radha Damodar Mandir. He crafted those deities and he gifted them to Jiva Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami also obviously oversaw the construction of that temple. Rupa Goswami himself and Jiva Goswami were obviously intimately related. They were working on their literary products together. Rupa Goswami specifically, he spent his last days at Radha Damodar temple, where his samadhi is there today, still famously. And at this temple, obviously, Srila Prabhupada took shelter. He lived at this temple for many years in Vrindavan in the late 1950s and early 1960s, where he compiled a few things. I think at that time he wrote Easy Journey to Other Planets, but principally, most famously, and Back to Godhead I think he was also doing. But principally, he was writing his commentary to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when that temple, Srila Prabhupada prepared for his mission coming to the West. So it's a very significant temple. So Jiva Goswami, so regarding his significance, it's very significant. Among other things, he left many books. We'll start with that. He composed many books, just like, where is that? Just yesterday, we were hearing in Srila Prabhupada's class that all these things he was saying something like, all these things are explained in Shastra, and that Jiva Goswami has elaborated upon them. And he said that, so we are followers of Jiva Goswami. So we're followers in Jiva Goswami in the sense that very much that he put our philosophy into a very comprehensive form, which was otherwise, it was done to some extent, to a major extent actually, by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and taking inspiration from them. Jiva Goswami did it almost in a greater form. He wrote over, what is that? More structured form, you could say like that. He wrote over 400,000 verses, which is, if you take all the verses in all the Puranas and you add them all together, that's the amount of verses that he wrote, equal to that. So he wrote extensively. He composed many books. He composed original books, and he composed commentaries also, specifically upon the writings of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami famously, he wrote his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Jiva Goswami commentated upon that as I guess you could say sequel to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, with the next book, there's Ujjvala Nilamani. Jiva Goswami also wrote a commentary upon that. So many things. He wrote a system of learning Sanskrit grammar according to the different names of Lord Krishna, Harinamamrita Vyakaranam. So it's a method of learning Sanskrit grammar just by using Krishna's names. So it's quite ingenious, actually. Gopal Champu, which is another work by him, which is you could say a prose, but it's still a verse, actually. But it's Krishna's pastimes within the 10th canto, and also more details given there. That's not specifically found in the 10th canto, more elaborations upon pastimes. He wrote a commentary to the Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote a commentary, very short, on the Gayatri Mantra. And principally, he's known for his Sandarbhas, his 6 Sandarbhas. As it's being quoted here, actually, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is even among his books, he's mentioning by name here within Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Bhagavat Sandarbha, which also refers to the Shat Sandarbha. So he says in Sri Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, he commented in one lecture that on the appearance day, today's the disappearance, but anyway, we can do the same, of Jiva Goswami, we should discuss the Sandarbhas, which implies that at least we should be, to discuss them, you have to be familiar with them to some extent. I haven't personally read them. We should, actually. We'll come to that state. But, so, I don't have much realization, so I'll just read from directly. Please don't get bored. A purport Srila Prabhupada wrote on the Sandarbhas. There are 6 Sandarbhas, and he elaborates on exactly what Sandarbha discusses what. There's translations out there as well. So, the Bhagavat Sandarbha is also known as the Shat Sandarbha. And the first part called Tattva Sandarbha, it is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence directly pointing to the absolute truth. So Tattva Sandarbha, which the BBT has a translation, just reiterate that it establishes Srimad Bhagavatam as the highest evidence, basically, above that of the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, Upanishads, etc. like this. The whole book is dedicated to proving how Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest pramana. The second Sandarbha, called Bhagavat Sandarbha, draws a distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, and describes the spiritual world and the domination of the mode of goodness, devoid of contamination by the other 2 material modes. In other words, there is a vivid description of the transcendental portion known as Shuddha Sattva. Material goodness is apt to be contaminated by the other 2 material qualities, ignorance and passion, but when it's situated in the Shuddha Sattva position, there is no chance for such contamination. And it is a spiritual platform of pure goodness. The potency of the Supreme Lord and living entity is also described, and there's the description of the inconceivable energies and varieties of energies of the Lord. So I'll just skip through this because the purport is quite long, but the Bhagavat Sandarbha, in brief, describes all these things. The third Sandarbha is called the Paramatma Sandarbha. And in his book, there's a description of Paramatma, the Supersoul, and an explanation of how the Supersoul exists in millions and millions of living entities. There are distinctions of the differences between the qualitative incarnations and discourses concerning the living entities, Maya, the material world, the theory of transformation, the illusory energy, the sameness of this world and the Supersoul, and the truth about this material world. In this connection, just one point I'll make briefly is that he's going systematically. Vishnu Chitra made that point systematically. So he's starting systematically from the point of, first point is epistemology. What do you take as evidence? And beginning with that, he wrote Bhagavat Sandarbha. Tattva Sandarbha, which establishes Bhagavatam as the basis of what's going to be discussed, the basis of knowledge. In other words, from there, within Bhagavat Sandarbha, he establishes that he discusses the nature of Shuddha Sattva, contrasted to just the impersonal Brahman, which the Mayavadis take as the all-in-all. Above that, then he's discussing aspects of the Paramatma. So he's going higher and higher, systematically like this. Above just, you could say, first Brahman is detailed, then the nature of Shuddha Sattva, how there's pure transcendental qualities, and then Paramatma himself, who is the Supreme Lord who possesses pure transcendental qualities. So he's progressing like this. Continuing the purport here, it is stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although devoid of material qualities, superintends all material activities. There's also discussion of how the Leela Avatar incarnations respond to the desires of the devotees, and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is characterized by 6 opulences. The fourth Sandarbha is called Krishna Sandarbha. And in this book, Krishna is proved to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We've gone Paramatma and then Krishna himself. There are discussions of Krishna's pastimes and qualities, his superintendence of the Purusha avatars, and so forth. The opinions of Sridhar Swami are corroborated. In each and every scripture, the supremacy of Krishna is stressed. Baladev, Sankarsana, and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Mahasankarsana. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as 2-handed. There are also descriptions of the Goloka planet Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Goloka and Vrindavan, the Yadavas and the cowherd boys, both eternal associates of Krishna, the equality of the manifest and unmanifest pastimes, Sri Krishna's manifestation in Gokula, the queens of Dwarka as expansions of the internal potency, and superior to them, the super excellent gopis. There's also a list of the gopis' names and a discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani. So these four Sandarbhas, they altogether discuss Sampanda, one's relationship with Krishna. The fifth Sandarbha discusses Abhidheya, which is called Bhakti Sandarbha. And in this book, there's a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted, either directly or indirectly. There's a discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scripture, the establishment of the Vedic institution of Varnashrama, bhakti as superior to fruitive activity, and so forth. It is also stated that without devotional service, even a Brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma tyag, the giving of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the practices of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation, which are deprecated as simply hard labor. Worship of the demigods is discouraged, and worship of a Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to non-devotees. There are discussions of how one can be liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta. There are many points, actually. All these, if we've been reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we understand all these points. We can hear these. This is the points in like a nutshell form. We can think of so many different points that Srila Prabhupada makes in his books. These books are coming from these things are originally by Lord Chaitanya, obviously, who then imparted it to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami very systematically detailed this. So these points, they're all coming from, in one sense, the Shat Sandarbhas. Even this point, which I happened to, some years ago, I just happened to open the Sandarbhas, just a random Sandarbha, I guess it must have been this one, Bhakti Sandarbha. And it discussed this point, I've quoted this before, but this point about how Lord Shiva, he comes within Kali Yuga to preach Mayavad philosophy as Shankaracharya, and he's ordered by the Supreme Lord to do so, although nevertheless he's a devotee. So this thing, which Srila Prabhupada quotes numerous times throughout his books actually, it has its origins, presumably within Lord Chaitanya himself, obviously that's there, but Jiva Goswami specifically elaborated upon this point. So this same point here, he's discussing within this Sandarbha, Lord Shiva as a devotee, and how a bhakta and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. So all these points within Srila Prabhupada's books, it's contained within the Sandarbhas. The Sandarbhas, it just discusses it in more technical language. Just like when you see, he'll quote Shankaracharya, but he'll just quote the first 2 or 3 lines of Shankaracharya's commentary, and he'll expect the reader to know that. So they're authored for a different audience, you could say, than the modern readership, even the readership within India. A readership which was of a very high scholarly nature. So I'll get to that in a little bit, just to finish this purport, detailing the Sandarbhas. It is stated that through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is transcendental to material qualities. There's a discussion of how the self is manifest through bhakti. There's also a discussion of the self's bliss, as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and an explanation is given of how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees. There's a discussion of the differences between the Mahabhagavat and the ordinary devotee, the symptoms of philosophical speculation, the symptoms of self-worship or ahangarupasana, which Prabhupada also quotes within his books, the symptoms of devotional service, the symptoms of imaginary perfection, the acceptance of regulative principles, service to the spiritual master, the Mahabhagavat, and service to him. Service to Vaishnavas in general, the principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offenses in worship, offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself as an eternal servant of the Lord and making friendship with the Lord and surrendering everything for His pleasure. There's also a discussion of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love of God, of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna, and a comparative study of the other 6 perfectional stages. That's all in one Sandarbha. So you can imagine how he wrote 400,000 verses. And the 6th Sandarbha, it's called Priti Sandarbha. So Abhidheya was discussed, now Prayojan is being discussed within Priti Sandarbha. A thesis on love of Godhead. Here it is stated that through love of Godhead, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. A distinction is made between the liberated condition of a personalist and that of an impersonalist, and there's a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Of all kinds of liberation and loving service to the Lord is described as the most exalted. And meeting the Supreme Personality of God face to face is shown to be the highest perfection of life. Immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. Both realization of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime. But meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both internally and externally, is shown to be super excellent, above the transcendental realization of the Brahman effulgence. So all these things are discussed in detail there. I'll continue in just one point. It's given in seed form here, but internal realization of Supreme Personality of Godhead and external realization. When one is making advancement in devotional service, before one achieves full realization, you could say at the stage of bhava, this is discussed by Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbha, he achieves darshan of Krishna, internal darshan. He has visions of Krishna within his own consciousness, but he doesn't externally see him. That external vision of Krishna comes later. So all these things are discussed within the Sandarbhas. There's a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya. Samipya is better than Salokya. Devotional service is considered to be liberation with greater facilities, and there is a discussion of how to obtain it. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform, which is the exact position of love of Godhead, the marginal symptoms of transcendental love, and how it is to be awakened. The distinction between so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of love of God, and different types of humors and mellows, rasas, enjoyed in relishing the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representations of pure love of Krishna. There are also discussions of bhakti mixed with philosophical speculation, the super excellence of the love of the gopis, the difference between the opulent devotional service and loving devotional service, the exalted position of the residents of Gokula, the progressively exalted position of the friends of Krishna, the gopas, and the gopis in parental love with Krishna, and finally, the super excellence of the love of the gopis and that of Srimati Radharani. There's also discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and of how such mellows are far superior to the ordinary mellows of mundane love. And there are descriptions of different ecstasies, the awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, the distinctions of Tirodata, the utmost attractiveness of conjugal love. Now it's getting into topics of sort of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujvala Nilamani, etc. like that. The ecstatic features, the permanent ecstatic features, the mellows divided into 5 transcendental features of direct loving service, the indirect loving service, considered in 7 divisions, indirect rasas. Finally, there's a discussion of overlapping of different rasas, and there are discussions of shanta, servitorship, taking shelter, parental love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, and enjoyment in separation, previous attraction, and the glories of Srimati Radharani. So, this is the Shat Sandarbha. It's Jiva Goswami's most prominent and well-known and widely read work. Of course, his Bhagavatam commentary is also there, but principally he's known for this. So he explains, you can understand how he's explained the philosophy in a very systematic, very highly technical philosophic manner, in language that was meant for pundits, generally, perusal by pundits to explain Shastra, and meant for use chiefly within the Sampradaya itself. I mentioned before, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to discuss, at least on the appearance and disappearance days of Jiva Goswami, of appearance specifically, the Sandarbhas, which implies Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be acquainted with them to some extent or another. Srila Prabhupada, he himself didn't necessarily lecture on the Sandarbha or translate it, but he expressed a desire to do so, to translate the Sandarbhas. He was thinking to do so like that. Of course, such a thing never came about, unfortunately, but that desire was there, and he wanted it translated and studied. So we should do so. Srila Jiva Goswami, he wrote 400,000 verses, very extensively. So worship of the Acharya is not just by glorifying him, but it's also by reading his literature. It's useless just to, not completely useless, but just to praise Jiva Goswami and not read what he's left it's a little contradictory. It's just like if we praise Srila Prabhupada that how nicely he's written his books, but if we don't read his books ourselves, then it's not very good. On some level, it's good because you're praising an Acharya, but we should also read. It's important because the Sandarbha, of course, it may not necessarily be meant for everybody, but it was compiled with that intent. There's so many things. Jiva Goswami wrote so many things. He has a commentary on the Bhagavatam, which at least among ISKCON devotees, which is probably his most popular work that's being read. Gopal Champu is also there for more elevated devotees who spent years in devotional service. What is that?
All the Sandarbhas are there.
I can't hear.
All the Sandarbhas are there.
Sandarbhas are there. Yeah, the Sandarbhas are there, obviously. Commentary on the Gayatri Mantra for those who are Sikha initiated is very brief. We can study that. So we should study, Srila Prabhupada said, we're followers of Jiva Goswami. Follower means we should understand what he said. We should understand what to follow in order to be a follower. Of course, not right away. One thing is, everything there is regarding reading his works. Everything is there within Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada, he himself said that. When one disciple proposed to Srila Prabhupada that you've given the essence of all other acharyas within your book, Srila Prabhupada confirmed that, but nevertheless he wanted devotees to read the works of previous acharyas. Within his Bhagavatam commentary, on the first verse, I believe, he lists that the serious student would do well to go through the commentaries of Sridhar Swami, Vishwavana Chakravarti Thakur, and Jiva Goswami, amongst others, on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, it's to be read and studied with proper qualification. General understanding is that it's good to read through Srila Prabhupada's books, obviously. That should be done first. Principally, usually, often, and something I back up as well, 3 times to study Srila Prabhupada's books thrice before moving on to Acharya's works and studying like that. Especially something like the Sandarbhas, because otherwise you get very, very easily confused. It's not for somebody new, definitely not for the common man, and definitely not for even devotees who have spent even some years. It's meant for more mature devotees. As well as his other works, his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, things like this. Etc. like this. But we should come to this point. Srila Prabhupada, he wanted, our temples are meant to be centers of learning, and particularly, not everybody is going to be learned, granted, but at least those who are residing within the temples should be brahmanas, and they should know these things. If the temple residents don't know, then who will know? Of course, everything comes gradually within time, but for those who committed themselves to the, I guess you could say, clergy of the Krishna consciousness movement, ultimately, we should come to the point of knowing these things. Otherwise, these things get lost. If the consciousness is just that I can't study the works of previous acharyas, despite Srila Prabhupada wanting us to do so, and there's a situation where nobody knows that the works of the previous acharyas are there, but nobody can quote from them or explain them, then it's not very good. So these things should be read and discussed, although with caution and with maturity. So, as well as Jiva Goswami, I'll just read one other bit here. It's around here, actually. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he himself has some glorification of Jiva Goswami. So I'll just read from the translations. Sri Rupa Goswami's nephew, Sri Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service that there is no counting them. In this which I read, and Sri Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. The most famous and formidable transcendental literature is the book named Gopal Champu. In this book, the eternal pastimes of the Lord are established, and the transcendental mellows enjoyed in Vrindavan are completely described. So this is also, there's a huge purport here by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that Srila Prabhupada quotes from, discussing this Gopal Champu. It's a famous book. It's to be read by very mature devotees. It describes Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes and elevated exchanges between Krishna and the gopis, etc. like that. It's a lasting contribution by Srila Jiva Goswami. the Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and their nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, as well as practically all of their family members lived in Vrindavan and published important books on devotional service. So this is, in quite brief, Jiva Goswami. He's very elevated. He's an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. He's a Nitya Siddha who has come to this world for our deliverance, for our benefit. And he's compiled so many literatures for our benefit. So we should take shelter of him. By taking shelter of him and by offering obeisances unto him, all impediments, as Bhrigu Prabhu, he has that verse that comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, offering obeisances to the 6 Goswamis, they destroy all obstacles in one's devotional service, and it enables one to fulfills the transcendental desire for devotional service. The translation comes like that. So, at least on this day, we can offer obeisances to Jiva Goswami, pray to him for advancement in devotional service. We can pray to him for a drop of his devotional service, for a drop of his knowledge. Even if we had a drop of his knowledge or learning, my God. So we can pray to him onto this day for aid in our own devotional lives. So, okay, I can end my class there and open it for any questions, comments, discussions anybody has on Jiva Goswami or Jagadish Pandit.
Hare Krishna. This point you were making as far as like studying the works of the previous acharyas, I remember, and it's like an anecdote in the Lila Amrita where I think Prabhupada's disciples were like studying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's works, and then he felt kind of offended. So what is the mood when you go about studying previous acharyas without offending your own spiritual master?
Yeah, well, your own spiritual master. Another point, I mentioned Srila Prabhupada's books, but another point is that if our spiritual master has books, we should also read those books first before going on to as well previous acharyas' books. It makes sense, just as Srila Prabhupada, he was specifically unhappy with disciples that were going to previous acharyas' books without having first assimilated his books. Of course, who can say they've assimilated Srila Prabhupada's books in one degree, but on another degree, you can. So, we should assimilate both our spiritual master's own literature, also the literature left by Srila Prabhupada, without being offensive. Well, so there's one instance, there's one conversation that Srila Prabhupada, he said not to study the books of previous acharyas, and it's become, at least at that time, it's become famous within ISKCON. But when he was later questioned about this point, Srila Prabhupada, he said, I never said they, I'm paraphrasing the conversation, but he said, I never banned reading the previous acharyas' books. In fact, you should do that. I never said anything like that. Maybe it was misunderstood. He was saying like this. And he himself, Srila Prabhupada himself, within his books, he encourages to study the works of the previous acharyas, just like Brihad Bhagavatamrita within Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a description of Sanatana Goswami, just as there's this description of Jiva Goswami. And in a purport over there, Srila Prabhupada, he says that Brihad Bhagavatamrita is a must-read for anybody who wants to know about the science of devotional service. So it's incumbent upon devotees to study that. Now, it may not be right away, but it's incumbent upon devotees to study that. So similarly, too, just like I was quoting, within the first commentary of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada lists so many acharyas whose work should be studied. So that means they should be studied. Srila Prabhupada obviously wanted it. How to not be offensive? Well, it's not necessarily offensive. Of course, there's the point of jumping over. Jumping over shouldn't be there. But it's done in a way, jumping over means, best thing is to go systematically, just like I was saying. We're studying the books of one's own spiritual master, repeatedly as well, then simultaneously hand-in-hand studying the books of Srila Prabhupada multiple times to become familiar with them, and then also taking permission, if the spiritual master is there, taking permission for the spiritual master to read such literature, because ultimately, one's hearing, especially as so long the spiritual master is here, one's hearing should be conducted under the guidance of the spiritual master. So, you can look to the spiritual ask the spiritual master and ask permission like that. That's the very easy solution as to not be offensive. and to know one's own qualification to hear such things. Yes, some books are meant for more advanced devotees. Other books, not necessarily so. Like that, and one's adhikar or eligibility to hear such literature, it can be gauged from approaching the spiritual master like that. So, at least when the spiritual master is present. Otherwise, through prayer and understanding one's own position in devotional service, that comes with a maturity. But yeah, so is that okay? Is that quite clear?
So you mentioned how Jiva Goswami wrote 400,000 verses.
Yeah.
How many of those are like part of the Sandarbha, and how many of those do we have do we still have?
I don't know. I don't have such extensive knowledge. I think here actually, no, this continues elsewhere, or here maybe. This 400,000. This comes from Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. Actually, he says, he repeats the same thing. Actually, here specifically, Chari Laka Granta Teno Vistar Korila. In the Shandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami set forth truths about the transcendental love of Krishna. In this way, he expanded 400,000 verses in all of his books. So exactly you could count it, probably somebody has counted it. I don't know specifically offhand, so I can't give you such a nice answer. But yeah. The division, I'm not quite sure. Presumably, the Sandarbhas take up the majority of his work. Also, it depends how you categorize it. His commentary on the Bhagavatam, for instance, is prose, so I'm not sure how they're counting that necessarily. It's not necessarily in versed form. So that's one point. As well, the Sandarbhas themselves, they're not strictly Granta, I'm not, usually it's taken in Shastra, but verses is used here, but Srila Jiva Goswami didn't always write in verse. A lot of the Sandarbha is written just in prose, if you look at it. So yeah, that's one thing. So the division, the classification, I'm not quite sure. The technical knowledge, I don't know. So sorry to not have an answer.
Is it 32 solas, something like that? Or is like some division of that? Granta means book also.
Anything else, Samir?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, what does Sandarbha translate as?
I had looked this up at one point, but now I've forgotten it, so I don't know.
Okay.
Is there another question, and then I can find out? The Mataji, anything? Yes, one question over there.
Well, I think my first one might be the same. Was he asking what are they categorized as, the Sandarbhas?
Yeah, amazing.
Sorry,
yeah.
Ask my second one in the meantime. You were mentioning about how a devotee, before they come to the bhava stage, that they recognize.
It's just a technical point, yeah.
That they're able to see Krishna internally.
Mm-hmm.
So is that considered like Paramatma realization, or what is that?
No,
internal
it's,
vision?
you see Krishna himself, actually. Okay, well, first thing about the Sandarbha, it's vague, actually, because I had previously looked this up. It means like, here, this. It means like discourse, something like that. The etymology of exactly what it means, I'm not quite sure, but it refers to like here, you see the idea, meaning, purport, discourse, just like Tattva Sandarbha, Tattva, or let's take Paramatma Sandarbha, okay? So Paramatma Sandarbha means the discourse in the nature of Paramatma, basically like that. So that's what Sandarbha means. Regarding that vision, there's a technical point, Jiva Goswami discusses this. So when one approaches the bhava stage, and going from bhava to prema, one's realization of Krishna gets more and more intense. And a devotee, he has internal realization. It's not just Paramatma. It's Krishna himself, actually. Internal vision. Just like, within one's meditations, his chanting, and his absorption on the holy name, it's possible for a devotee on such a stage, or for Krishna to give vision to such a devotee on such a stage. So, but it's not constant. It can come and go. Krishna does that to increase the love of his devotee. The external vision it can come about even within this life, as our acharyas and stories regarding our acharyas have demonstrated. Principally, it comes back when one goes back home, back to Godhead. But that's what it refers to. Is that clear? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another good point. Yeah. One always sees Krishna within his heart. Yeah. So, as one approaches love of God that is unsteady, it's an unsteady meditation, and Krishna gives and sometimes he takes away. Just like, for example, Narada Muni, although the situation is different, is a little bit different. Narada Muni saw Krishna very briefly internally. He didn't see Krishna externally. He saw it in his internal meditation, and when he opened his eyes, he was gone. Similarly, Dhruva Maharaj, facsimile situation was there. He saw Krishna, I don't know necessarily Krishna exactly, but some form of Vishnu internally, and then later there was external vision. So there's the internal vision and there's then external vision. So like that. It's a technical point. So, okay? Everything okay? Anyway, it's 8:30. Okay. Srila Jiva Goswami ki jai. Srila Jagadish Pandit ki jai.